Good afternoon, this is World News on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Never enemies, allies throughout the ages. Poland and France have never waged war against each other, and today both countries have signed a treaty of friendship and cooperation, effectively replacing a 1991 pact branded by both countries as outdated. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and French President Emmanuel Macron penned the treaty in the city of Nancy, which in the 18th century was the capital of a duchy ruled by an exiled Polish king, Stanisław Leszczyński. The treaty provides enhanced mutual security guarantees as well as a closer defense cooperation. History is a good teacher, said Donald Tusk. We have learned the lesson well. The treaty provides a solidarity clause and we do not ask for help to anyone. However, we are currently building one of the most important and impressive armies in Europe. So the history will judge us. France had entered into similar agreements with Germany, Spain and Italy before. However, Poland is the first non-bordering country to have signed such a high-level agreement. After having signed the treaty, Donald Tusk and Emmanuel Macron held a press conference. So let's take a listen.
Together with Poland and our European partners, we decided to take a more active role in bearing the responsibility of our defense. This is a strategic awakening in the field of European defense, which picked up speed since the European Council in March. The point is to make use of all financial options available, both public and private, and to direct these funds into the European defense industry. The topic of security has become increasingly important. We're not only talking about mutual military guarantees, cooperation of our defense industries, cooperation in the field of the newest technologies, and nuclear cooperation. All of that is important, but so is politics. We don't hide the fact that this treaty will greatly strengthen the European structure of stability.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz used his first official visit to Brussels to reiterate Berlin's commitment to strengthening Europe's border, economy and defense capabilities. Amid a flurry of press conferences, the recently minted Bundeskanzler confirmed his ongoing support for Ukraine as the war-torn country battles another year of Russian invasion. He also spoke on the future of NATO and efforts to reinforce the military alliance. We are now joined by our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins, who joins us from Brussels. Hello, Angela. By all appearances, the German Chancellor wasted no time in visiting the heart of the European Union merely 2 days into his new job. What were the takeaways from his whirlwind trip?
Yes, so as you said at the beginning of that broadcast, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz really drove the point home that Europe needs to strengthen its borders, economy and military capabilities in the face of that Russian aggression in Ukraine, as well as those overtures from US President Donald Trump regarding the future of the NATO security alliance. Now, he spoke at a whopping 3 press conferences over 5 hours in the Belgian capital. He brought up the fact that he spoke to that 47th President of the United States on Thursday night, where they discussed tariffs as well as that 30-day ceasefire proposal and the pressure that needs to be put on Russian President Vladimir Putin to accept this so that a hopeful negotiation to the end of this war can be secured. He also mentioned scaling up defensive capabilities. However, he said that Germany is not in the interest of common debt across the EU for this to occur. But we know that Berlin, behind the US, is the biggest provider of military aid to Ukraine and has allocated roughly 30 billion euros to that country since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. But it's not just a matter of providing aid. Their member states need to do more. NATO military alliance members also need to hit that 2% funding benchmark at least. just before that number could be scaled up at the Hague NATO Summer Summit scheduled for next month. But by all appearances, we think that that German government helmed by Friedrich Merz, that new Chancellor, wants to do more. Reuters news agency has reported that official sources suggest that Boris Pistorius, Germany's defence minister, wants to increase Germany's defence budget to at least 60 billion euros. This is 10 billion euros more than the previous government led by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. But we'll have to wait and see whether this materialises and what comes out of that NATO Summer Summit, which we're expecting a representative from Washington to attend as well. But that is all from Brussels. I'll send it back to you in Warsaw.
Angela Skujins, thank you so much. Germany's new Chancellor Friedrich Merz said also that there is a big chance for a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine, following talks with Presidents Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky. After meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Merz said the ball is now in Moscow's court.
There is a chance beyond this weekend to achieve a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine. Ukraine is in favor of it and agrees to it. America initiated it and proposed it. The major European states fully agreed to it. I also assume that this applies to the entire European Union and also to NATO. The ball is now entirely in Moscow's court. It is only there that the decision will be made as to whether there is a chance of facilitating a longer ceasefire in Ukraine.
To also be able to defend ourselves and to keep the deterrence and defense at the level we need only to spend much more, but also to build that defense industrial base across the Atlantic, across the whole Euro-Atlantic area, including the United States and Canada and all the European countries in NATO. It's crucial. We need to do both. I said it before. The Russians are producing in 3 months in ammunition what the whole of NATO, which is 25 times bigger than Russia in terms of the overall economy. We produce in 1 year in ammunition what they produce in 3 months. So that's not sustainable. So it is both spending and more production.
The first American Pope in history has delivered his very first Mass at the Vatican. While the Chicago native election came as a surprise, it brought pride and joy to many Americans. Our correspondent Alex Cadier has been speaking to Americans in the Vatican and joins me now. Good afternoon, Alex. How did that feel?
Well, good afternoon. There was a bit of a hush. There was, of course, a roar of excitement when the white smoke came out. But when the name Cardinale Prevost was announced on the balcony, some people went, who? Because it was completely unexpected. We were just reporting here on TVP World in the lead up to the white smoke that it could be Cardinal Tagle of the Philippines, it could be Cardinal Parolin of Italy. This particular choice of Pope was unexpected. The Chicago-born, half Peruvian American, the first American Pope in history. So we asked Americans who were here in the Vatican what they thought, and I spoke to a father and son, Spencer and Mark, about their feelings. You'll hear from Spencer first. I asked him how it felt to have a Pope from Chicago, and you'll see in the clip he was wearing a hat with the flag of the city of Chicago. Let's have a listen.
Well, one, we never expected this at all. An American Pope would never be in anyone's head, but a Chicagoan at that, we're very proud of it. We would definitely be bragging about that back home and around the United States to everyone.
And that's what it means to have a Pope from Chicago. I then spoke to Mark, that's Spencer's dad, about what the values of the city of Chicago might bring to the papacy, unexpected though they may be. I was curious to understand what the city of Chicago might bring here to the Vatican. Let's have a listen to what Mark had to say.
I think Chicago is just a Midwestern, hardworking, accepting of all peoples, and not a lot of edge. It's just a wonderful place to live. I was born there, raised our 3 children there, and a large family, and it's just a great community.
Now, off camera, that's the very same Mark said to me, to be honest, I just want to know if he's a Sox fan or a Cubs fan. So, of course, sports still front of mind for Americans here in the Vatican. But closer to the point about whether or not Pope Leo XIV will be a reforming pope, a progressive pope, irrespective of his American nationality, some American priests I've been speaking to behind the scenes saying, well, we think he might be a spiritual counterbalance for the leadership of Donald Trump in the United States. We know that the now Pope Leo XIV had shared an article critical of Vice President J.D. Vance, so it will be very interesting to see in the few weeks how that shapes up. But certainly for Americans here in the Vatican, very excited to have the first American pontiff.
I don't know how about the football fan, but the new Pope is definitely a tennis amateur player, so we should be looking in this direction. Thank you so much, Alex Cadier from the Vatican for TVP World. And that concludes this edition of World News. Thank you so much for watching, and please stay tuned to TVP World for more.